congratulations on the series. I managed to catch a little bit of it earlier this week, and I'm just really super excited by watching the rest. Can you talk me through how you started this and how you got involved in this?
Um, how did I start and how did I get involved? It started in '82 when I was born, and then I kind of took it from there. I it's How did it start? It started with the director reaching out to me because it was a very personal story for him and his wife, Lone, who is also the writer. And I think when we're talking about themes like taking substance or being abusive of different stimulants, it's something that's very universal. And I kind of connected with the story immediately because I had two older brothers, so I know how it is to be the youngest one. I know how it is to tack. I know du har også bare taget en stik derovre. Tak, skat. So I know how it is to have siblings. And yeah, and
Yeah.
he reached out and he told me I've done quite a few works in Denmark, so I don't have to do that many tapes or castings anymore. Now I go straight for offers, which is absolutely amazing and a privilege.
Yeah. Mads is a very sort of, I want to say, complex character, but not just complex. He's also very intense and in the way he behaves towards everyone in his life. Um, Talk me through his character and where did you find that character when you played him inside you? Are there any similarities between you and him at all?
I, I might be a very intense person as well, but Mass and me, we're radically different. I like being with my family. I like hanging out with my wife and my daughter. I don't drink that much. I'm not a big fan of substances and stuff like that. I like baking and cooking and silly stuff with my daughter. Actually, the reason why I totally forgot this press junket was because I was baking cookies with
Oh.
my little one. Um, um, not really. The way you want to prepare to a role, the way you want to prepare to a character is you want to understand the person and you want to defend the character as much as possible. That's also the reasons why I've done a ton of millions of villains. And I think the reason why I've done so many villains is because I'm apparently good at it. But the reason why I'm good at it is because I always try to find sympathy for the character. I always try to find why we could relate to this character, why we could identify with this character, why we want to save this character, why we want to be with this person, why we want to see this person, why we want to live with him, fight for him, love with him, all these things. And these are the things that makes him very human. And
Mm.
what makes a character very human is how flawed he is. So I've noticed it because there's a big gap between Hollywood acting and European acting. In Hollywood, the hero needs to be flawless. But in Europe, we consider ourselves a very flawed nation because we're so divided by so many different religions and cultures and everything. And we kind of like the flawed. We kind of like that people are not
Mm.
as good on paper as a character can be. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That we sympathize with these people. And I learned very early on in my career that the more flawed a character can become, the more interesting it is to play. And at the end of the day, you might think I do all of this for you, but I actually do it for myself.
Yeah,
I like to act.
yeah,
I think it's the best job in the world. So
yeah. Just so we are all on the same wavelength, I think baking cookies with your child is by far more important than any kind of interview. So, you have carte blanche to go ahead and do it for me. It's fine. I'm not in the least offended. I just want to go back to sort of you spoke there about the difference between being a Hollywood actor. You've been in tons of stuff now, and then coming back to play in a character like this in a TV series, a very more complex, a character with depth, and he's an anti. Well, no, he's not a hero. He's just an everyday man who with complex ideas, with complex living situation. And how does it feel to sort of to take yourself out these big Hollywood trailers and makeup for every 5 seconds and being made to
I,
feel like very special to be coming back home and
I think it's very important. I had a teacher who told me something once when I was at drama school who said, if you want to be famous, do movies. If you want to be rich, do TV. If you want to be a better actor, do theater. You know? So sometimes you have to find back to your roots. I kind of skipped the theater because I've been so focused on films and TV because I don't like working in the evening. I like getting up 5 a.m. in the morning and then work for 10 hours straight and then go home and be with my family. That's my personal rhythm and joy of life. But I think it's very important. You have to go back home. You have to calibrate. You know what I mean? You have to navigate. You have to find yourself. You have to find a meaning. I'm turning 43 now. I've done it since I was 26. I did a TV show called Borgen, which was like a massive hit
organ.
yeah, it was sold to like 100 countries, and it was my first role, and the whole world was just so interesting and so incredible and so beautiful.
Mm.
And then you get older, and then you start realizing, why am I doing it? Because at the beginning it was for fame and money and not women, because I've been with my wife since mid-20s, but it was for all the wrong reasons. And now I kind of just I've done so many villains in America, and I love doing villains. I think villains are great, but I also want to develop. I wasn't made for just a villain. I was made for something else, and I have to find back to these characters because I'm not these characters. I don't get these characters in America. I don't get the three-dimensional characters. I get the one-dimensional character if I'm lucky. You know, often it's just cardboard, and I don't mean it in a bad way because I love the American market. It's just I think where I am, these are the roles I want to make. I want to make something that you can relate to. You go down to the pub, you open the door, and there he is, mess. It's not spectacular. It's not over the top, which is 95% of my work in America. It's just rooted and grounded in something called reality, something we can identify with. I think that's what I want to spend the next couple of years on, trying to develop that skill, work with that métier of mine.
Mm. Yeah. You spoke about Borgen there, and I think like Borgen in the UK was extremely popular, and I think it's one of the things that was really credited for making people start being interested in watching things in like their original language. How does that make you feel? And it was shown at the BBC, like, and it was probably one of the highest most watched TV shows of all time on
Yeah.
BBC4 when it came on. And how does that feel for you, and to revisit those days and knowing the effect it had elsewhere?
It's a blessing because you're so thankful. You can work an entire life on acting
Mm.
and never get a break, which is, and especially in the UK where you have, I have not, uh, I've seen so many British shows where I'm just like, this ensemble is like the best ensemble in the world.
Mm.
And you guys have an incredible range of actors. If you can imagine it, if you can imagine it on paper, you can find an actor in UK. That's not the same in Denmark. We're not the same. We don't have the same population. We don't have the same size of country size and countrymen. So
Mm.
we have to do the same roles, and we get more nuanced roles than a lot of my colleagues and peers in the UK.
Mm.
But it was a massive break, and I was so unbelievable thankful. But I also thought the cast for you character was done after 2 seasons. I was offered to do a season 4 and season 3, and I just felt it would be out of the wrong reasons.
Mm.
because the character had done. He was finished. He gave his little box of material to Katrine and said, "This is my past. This is me." And I don't want to do it for. I don't want to do it just to do it. It
Mm.
needs to make sense because you need to develop as an actor as well. At least then I had an ideology. It's a little bit different now. Hollywood won.
I just want to touch on something that I saw very recently. You starred in the latest adaptation of Salem's Lot, the
Yeah,
Stephen King
yeah.
adaptation of the movie. I actually really loved that movie, but I gather that there was it was made such a long time ago, and then there was difficulty in releasing it and stuff. How does it feel when you've been you know you've made something and they're sat on it and it's not being released yet? And does that feel do you get frustrated by that at all?
Yeah, I don't get frustrated with Salem's Lot because the role is so small.
Mm,
For me, Salem's Lot was because Peter Safran and James Wan called me
mm,
and asked me if I wanted to do the role because I just got Aquaman, and at that point, Aquaman was supposed to like take off,
mhm,
second one. Um, so they asked me if I wanted to be in Salem's Lot. It was a small role, but it could be fun, and it was a great introduction to Gary, who's an incredible guy. He's the sweetest guy. I love Gary Doberman. He's awesome. And we had so much fun because Gary was just like, do whatever you want, go over the top, go overboard, do your crazy eyes and crazy stuff. And I love that because for an actor, it's each character is like painting a painting, but I'm painting my career. You
mm.
know what I mean? I'm painting a whole bigger picture. So now Straker, that was one little color in the big picture.
Yeah.
Picture, and Game of Thrones was something, and Borgen was something. And for me, my career, that's going to be 40 more years.
Mm.
If I peak now, what the fuck should I do in a week? You know what I mean? So for me, it's just to work and work and work and work with as many incredible colleagues and friends and get to see the world and bring my family. I had never been in Boston, Massachusetts. I was there for 3 months. I got to bring my wife and my daughter. We got to see the cradle of American history, where the revolution started. The shot heard around the world.
Mm.
That was in the city we were shooting in, Concord, and that's American history. And I love that. So for me, I also do movies because I want to go to China and work with Jackie Chan. I'm a movie nerd. I'm like you, man. I'm just on the other side of the camera. That's the only difference. I why did I do Samaritan? I wanted to work with Sylvester Stallone before he would retire because he's an icon. You know, Ben-Hur, Morgan Freeman. I want to work with these guys as well because they're Hollywood legends and legacy. And the films might be so sometimes, but that's a hit and miss. Out of a 60, 70-year career, you're going to have that. But I'm very proud of what I've done. You have to remember, I come from a country of 5 million people. I'm one of the few people in my generation who's actually crossed the Atlantic Ocean and done UK, American, European, now Danish stuff, plus Chinese. I did a Chinese film. I spoke Russian in a previous one. I don't speak a word of Russian, but I wanted to learn Russian, and I did it. So for me, it's about everything. And Salem's Lot was such a small role. It was such a long time ago. The biggest blow I've ever had in Hollywood was that I did the adaptation of Invitation to a Bonfire, and AMC just shut it down while we were shooting because of budget cuts. They
Yeah.
had to they had to save like $400 or $500 million, and they just cut the last 3 or 4 or 5 shows. And that was I was playing like a version of Nabokov, the
Mhm.
guy who wrote Lolita.
Yeah, yeah.
And that I spoke French, I spoke Russian, English, and a bit of German, I remember. And that was an incredible role because I was playing an intellectual. I was playing a guy who liked to read books, which is way more me than a guy who likes to blow up people's head.
You mentioned earlier that sort of about acting, it's TV, film, or theatre. Would
Yeah.
you ever be tempted, or would you be happy to be tempted to do some theatre here in the UK, in London specifically?
I would love it. I would love it because it's a challenge, and I would be so afraid. I would be, oh my God, I would have anxiety. I would need a ton of painkillers. I would probably start to smoke weed just to apropos mess. I would be like, shit, I have to go on stage. Holy fuck. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's a bad joke. That's a bad joke. But I would love to do theater. I think it's one of the things I need to tick in the box because I miss the audience. When you shoot a film, and especially just to go back to your previous question, Salem Slot was doing COVID like 3, 4 years ago. So you're so detached, you're so out of it. I haven't even seen it. I haven't
It
seen
looks
it.
fantastic. Visually, it's absolutely stunning. I thought he did such a fantastic job. So yeah, I'm being told to wrap it up
Okay,
now.
okay, okay. But yeah, I would love to do theater in the UK because I want to meet the British audience. I miss the audience. I miss having something at stake, putting something on the line. You know what I mean? And I
Mm,
kind of did that with Secrets because it is very personal. It is a
mm.
very, very personal story to me. And I think if you watch it until the end, you'll see it's probably some of the best work I've ever done. It's much closer to Borgen than anything else I've ever done.
Brilliant. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Pilou, and congratulations again. And thank you for giving me so much time to talk about your career. That's really,
No, of course, Linda.
I'm
It
a
was wonderful
huge fan
talking
of
to you.
your acting. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah,
Thanks again. Okay.
yeah. I'm
Bye
glad.
bye.
I'm very thankful you get to see both sides of it.
No, of course, of course. Okay. Bye bye.
Ladies and gentlemen, you're watching Hey You Guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, you guys!
Hey, that's what they all say.
Hey, you guys!